You did. Hi, everyone online. We have Dr. Glenda Rose and Ashley Winkle managing the Hoover um, interaction. So feel free for those of you online to let them know if you're having, oh, here, you can see me. Hi. If you're having any issues hearing, well, you wouldn't have heard that. I am sharing my screen. You should see a slide that says GenAI and the EdTech Makerspace. Okay. And we encourage those of you who are online to be in the chat, comment, ask questions. And those of you who are in person, equally, please feel free to ask questions as they arise and engage with us throughout today's session. We're excited to share with you a project that we did to co-design professional development on generative AI for adult educators. My team at World Education, my name is Rachel Riggs. I'm a senior technical advisor at World Education. We are a global nonprofit. We provide a lot of professional development and technical assistance to state level administrators at adult ed and program administrators, and do through our Ideal Consortium a lot of professional development on digital learning, so technology integration, digital literacy, and so forth. And so on this project, I was joined by my colleagues, Jen Vanek and Jeff Gomez, and we worked with the amazing Ryan Lett, Gareth, Ashley, Glenda. They're all up here, and they all work out of Texas A&M. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yes, we're at Texas A&M. We are the Texas Center for the Advancement of Literacy and Learning. It's TCAL for short. And yeah, had the privilege to work with Jen and Jeff and Rachel, which has really been an amazing, wonderful opportunity for us and for our learners as well. Our center provides professional development for the adult education programs within the state. So we provide, develop, and manage professional development for the state adult educators. Yeah.
Ryan, you should come over here and let the people online see how gorgeous you are too. It's unbelievable.
Don't be disappointed. Hello.
Oh, hold on. Okay. We are going over to a Mentimeter, you guys. I'm going to put up a QR code. That slide didn't update. I did add a QR code to it, but that's all right. We want to hear from you guys. There's a QR code on your screen. If you're online, just use your mobile device and scan the QR code. If you're here in person, same. We're going to make a word cloud first. We want to know what AI tools are being used in your program. If you're at the state level, of course, just let us know what tools you know are in use at the state level. These can be new AI tools like Magic School, or they can be traditional tools like PowerPoint that now has Copilot built into it. We just want to get a sense for what you guys are seeing in the field in terms of AI tool procurement and usage. So a lot of Copilot, Gemini. A lot of Copilot. Okay, Microsoft.
I've never heard of Perplexity.
Oh yeah, Perplexity is a cool AI search tool, basically. Okay, nice. Someone said AI for Education, which is a great website that provides like lesson plans and a prompt library and different curricular resources and professional development resources online. Okay, Magic School, Notebook LM are getting big. If a word gets big, that means we have more people entering that word. Copilot and Gemini are really holding strong here. Okay, so we also want to know, because we'll be talking about teacher PD today, what training do teachers need to use AI well? So just kind of break it down and enter in whatever comes to your mind. Obviously, you don't need to enter the full scope of everything that you think needs to be covered, but if we all add our different ideas, we'll probably come up with a nice kaleidoscope. Okay, ethics and standards. This is not a word cloud, so you can be more descriptive if you wish. Prompts, prompt construction. Okay. Environment concerns. Building workflows into curriculum design and lesson planning. Interesting. Prompt. Practical examples is great. There have been a lot of sessions with very practical examples here. Trial and error, AI framework, critical thinking, building lessons. Curious, who said AI framework and which AI framework are you referring to? So if you're online, put it in the chat. If you're here in person, shout it and I'll repeat it. Yes, Mariangel?
Yeah, I we currently don't have a specific framework that we use in the state
Okay.
of Rhode Island. I know that we have been exploring different avenues, and you have been helping us with that, so thank you. But we're still in the process of speaking with our state administrators as well to select one, or at least to create one that we think would be useful for our teachers to give them some guidance
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, just the standards that they can follow and know how to use it.
Okay, great. So yeah, like structured guidance, and that's great. Okay, so we've got some great responses here. I'm actually going to do if you press space, this is going to use AI to group your responses so we can get some general themes. Okay, quite a few votes for prompting skills. Then we have ethical issues, lesson planning, resource creation, tool comparison. Really like that. And then we have some new ones that haven't been categorized. Assistant teacher, AI literacy. Okay, nice. And what challenges do you face with teacher PD on AI? So, if you are a teacher receiving PD, you can think of it through that lens. What are some of the challenges or gaps that you've had trying to get training on this topic? And if you are a PD provider, what are some of the things you've encountered when you're designing or rolling out professional development? Fear, too many AI tools at once, not tailored to the ESL population. Any other challenges you can think of? Too many AI tools, double checking. Have not had any training for corrections ed. Okay, whoever put that, let's chat. I did a technology integration project for corrections one time. And I'm just so, you educators who are working in corrections, just your creativity. And yeah, I just love talking to you about your ideas. Okay, lack of experience finding more advanced PD about implementing tools we already know how to use. So some leveling issues, some contextualization issues in terms of the ESL. Too many levels, beginner to advanced, need training to help students use it responsibly. So how do we integrate it into classes? Focus on the PD focuses on the magic of AI without use cases and practical application. Okay, great. So those are some of the same challenges that we saw and that inspired the collaboration between World Education and TCall, and some of the problems we were trying to solve. So at World Ed, we had done a national initiative called Camp GPT, and we were training adult educators. It was very exploratory, kind of design slammy kind of PD, just to see what do adult educators want to use, what tools are they using, what are the use cases that they have in mind. And what we saw is that it's kind of like who was teaching in adult education during the pandemic? Oh, a lot of you. Good. I'm glad you're still around. Yeah, so it's a similar era of like we're getting bombarded first with free licenses and then with free training, but all of it so specific to different tools. And so it's like, well, how do I know? It's a lot, and it's very tool based. So we saw that. And then we saw when teachers did start to use AI and show us their use cases, there was a lot of generating the things that are in textbooks. And we were thinking, well, what can we do to kind of push beyond if we know that there's open educational resources and publisher resources out there that are high quality that teachers can leverage? How can we push beyond just regenerating that stuff and actually leveraging that and using generative AI to really kind of go to the next level of curriculum development? And of course, what we saw were teachers who were fearful, who were overwhelmed, who were pressed for time, who were unsure, who didn't have enough guidance, and who were really working in silos in their use of AI and trying to sort it out for themselves. So we called our friends. I said, Ryan, help me.
She said it just like that. No, really. So what we saw in Texas is pretty much what you guys described in the Menti, some of the same things. From personal experience, going out and delivering different trainings and on site, whenever I would get to a specific portion, whole training may not be on AI, but just a specific portion on AI, there were so many questions. There was such high interest in the topic, in the tools, that it would almost dominate what I was presenting on. So same thing, we saw educators who were having the questions of what tools to use, questions about the ethics, questions about implementation, all of those things. And so, yeah, we wanted to move them from that curiosity and move them into that confidence and actual classroom integration in the state.
So what we did was we worked with TCAL. We started with a co-design process to design the training. And we had a lot of key learnings. Obviously, everything that we do, we want it to be locally informed and contextualized and relevant. And so we started with that co-design process to make sure the training would be tailored to the specific needs in Texas. And then we did the training. That was kind of an important part. And we also gathered data, program evaluation data, as well as qualitative case study type of data to analyze so that we could have some insights into first how well did the PD go, but then also kind of on a broader level, like what are teachers' perceptions and use cases in a more structured way. So then we went back and we interviewed 3 participants who had showcased their work at the State Institute to understand 6 months later, what does some of this look like? So I'm not going to talk too much about this. I mean, everything that we do obviously is grounded in quality teacher PD. We really appreciate Darling Hammond's work on the effective principles of effective teacher PD. And then we also appreciate the TPAC framework, if you're familiar. So everything we do is grounded really in that quality, what we know about quality PD. We also have some specific models that we use at World Education. The first one was that Camp GPT exploratory model. And the second one is called our EdTech Makerspace. So we did this actually a lot during the pandemic as well, trying to solve for that issue of tools are everywhere and how do we support teachers, not just to know how to use a tool, but then also to actually apply it. And so in the EdTech Makerspace, what they do is they create open educational resources with EdTech tools like Google Forms and so on. And so those are 2 of our models that we were drawing on. And then obviously we worked with the TCAL team in the co-design process to make sure that it was relevant to the needs in their local context. So the training sessions looked like this. They started in March. We started with the basics of generative AI and prompting. And we had these 4 synchronous sessions. The first 3 had an asynchronous assignment. And so the first assignment they had was to create a contextualized exercise using generative AI. So they had to choose a standard, an academic standard that they wanted to teach, and then also think about relevant context for adult learners to develop something that was highly contextualized. In the second session, we focused on collaborating with generative AI, and their task was to differentiate a learning activity. So if you have a classroom of learners with different levels or different interests, then we want you to teach the same academic skill to all of them and create materials that are differentiated. And then the third session was taking it to the classroom. And that was all about how do we take what chatbots produce, which is typically, although increasingly it's more multimedia, but it's usually a lot of text. And so we were thinking, okay, well, how do we now incorporate some knowledge of EdTech tools so that we can deliver engaging digital interactive experiences for learners? And then we ended it with a show and tell and reflection. So the first session, like I said, we focused on just general purpose generative AI tools and chatbots and taught them a prompting framework, the RACEF framework. Again, we knew that there were a lot of tools out there, so the whole training was tool agnostic. We didn't dictate what tools they used. We were more focused on the strategies and the skills related to using AI. The second session introduced a framework for AI integration that covers different important dimensions of AI integration in education, like ethics, which some of you mentioned earlier. And in that session, we also talked about and introduced them to some different specialized tools that are teaching tools and are really meant for use in educational settings. Session 3 was focused on taking it to the classroom. So great, you've generated something with AI, and how do we now evaluate that? We used an open educational resource evaluation checklist. So thinking about how do we evaluate educational resources, there's a long history behind that. There's less history behind evaluating generative AI outputs, but there's a long history behind educational resources and what makes them quality. So we had them take what they produced using generative AI and evaluate it according to this resource evaluation guide. And of course, we emphasize some of the things that we know are AI limitations that overlap with this idea of quality OER. OER is Open Educational Resources, for those who aren't familiar with the acronym. So as an example, if you try to generate an image of an adult learning math, you will get, I have not learned this math, you guys. I have not learned this math. You'll get results that showcase the limited data that AI is trained on and the bias that is baked into AI models, right? And so that overlaps with what we're looking for in educational resources, which is that they include diverse representation and are free from bias and stereotypes. So again, looking at really highlighting, okay, this is a quality educational resource, and these are the limitations of AI. And so how do we learn more about AI and educational resources simultaneously? The other part of session 3 was to look at EdTech tools. So if we have something, we've just generated a bunch of problems using a chatbot, well, now what do we do with those? And here we wanted to really support teachers because we know that many teachers still don't feel very proficient or expert in leveraging digital learning tools that have been around before AI. So we wanted to incorporate some of those tools as well. And we looked at, okay, well, would we turn this into a digital form for learners? Would we put this in an LMS? Would we put it into a fillable Word document? And then in our final session, we just did a reflection. So we did a show and tell and a reflection, and we developed this When Do I AI flowchart from the work that they had done together. So in our flowchart, we saw 3 buckets of use cases of why teachers turn to AI. The first one being just ideas and brainstorming, and then learning resources, and then media. And then based on that, we wanted them to think about, okay, well, what do you have already that can help you in this area? For ideas, you do have colleagues that can help you brainstorm, but they're not always accessible, right? Maybe you're planning your lesson at 11 p.m. at night. And so just having them think about, okay, well, what do I need? And then what do I already have that I can leverage that will augment and support my use of AI so I can get even closer to my goals. The third column is a prompt approach that kind of walks back to those needs. So, how should I prompt and interact with an AI? And then the final one shows us what we need to check for when we're using generative AI to develop learning resources. Oh my gosh, these slides to update. This was a nicer text that said notice and wonder, and I must have been connected to the Wi-Fi. But let's notice and wonder. I love this slide. I'm going to use this. Okay, so what do you notice and wonder about the topics that we covered in the PD sessions, the content that we included? So notice is like a aha commentary, and wonder is like a huh, maybe a question. Those of you who are online, you can put them in the chat.
I like how you didn't focus on a specific tool and built more of a framework to think about things.
I think you have to hold the mic a bit close in order for it to really register.
Yeah. Yeah, this the content in the sessions. Yeah.
I noticed and really appreciate that this PD was not generative AI being like a panacea solution to all our problems. So that's pretty rad.
Nice. Thanks. We think so.
While I was participating in this, I also appreciated that. Yeah, it does get, I have definitely attended sessions where someone was like, this will solve all of your problems.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, what you both brought up is kind of they're two ends of the spectrum where the tools being so specific can be really limiting in terms of gaining the right skills and knowledge. But then also, there is a scope of skills and knowledge that we can cover within a PD. And so we have to, yeah, find the right balance. Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
We've got Colton asked, I'm wondering how some of the learner-ready resources turned out and how much human design was needed to make them, quote, learner-ready.
Ooh, good question.
Really good questions.
Let's just proceed through our session, I guess. Thank you, Colton. All right. So I wanted to share a little bit about the program evaluation because we did get some validation through the data we collected that the content we were covering was right. And we also learned that the way we were delivering it was needed work. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But in terms of the content, we had participants showing increased confidence or self-reporting increased confidence by the end of the training, which I think is really important when we're talking about AI. I think it can feel very alienating sometimes to feel like you're at this different level and not sure how you're going to catch up. So that was great to see. We did survey them on how they felt about the topics that were covered, and there was really no deviation. They felt that everything covered was very important. And so we were thinking we would find something that we would be like, oh, let's toss that out or let's add this. But it really was aligned with what they were looking for. So that was reassuring. And then we saw intentions to increase their use of generative AI. And interestingly, some of them intending to increase their use of open educational resources, which we really liked to see because we want to open teachers up to new possibilities, not just with a single technology, but with other resources that they have at their disposal. We went back 6 months later to interview 3 of the participants, and then we actually used those interviews to create some archetypes of what we think today's adult educator that is a power user of AI can look like. The first one we nicknamed Trevor. That's not really his name. He's been pseudonymed. Is that a word, Glenda? Huh? It is now. It is now. Good. Okay.
English language works. You could just do that.
So Trevor, we call the learner-centered synthesizer. Trevor had highly diverse classes, multi-level, also mixing ESL and GED. And so he really just had a lot of different kinds of adult learners in his class. And so he was really pulling together a lot of different tools to meet the needs of those learners. So he says, I need resources with simple language, but targeted for adult audiences. And that is something that's not out there a lot for adult education for ESL. And so that kind of gives you some insight into why maybe Trevor was looking to generative AI. And Trevor, 6 months after the training, was mixing and matching different Gen AI tools and uses to meet the needs of diverse learners in a multi-level class. And what we really appreciated about Trevor's approach and what he emphasized in the interview was that he carefully considers what's meaningful and relevant for adults. So he had actually deviated away from the specialized tools that we introduced, like Magic School and Diffit, just saying that, you know, they're so K-12 or higher ed focused. I really struggle to like get them to put something out at the right level that is appropriate for adults. So that's not a commentary on those tools. I think a lot of teachers find them to be very useful. But that was really his motivation. And I think that that's what we want to see when we see teachers using AI, right? That they're really using it to better meet the needs of the learners who are in their class. So if you want to see Colton, you here? You listening? This is it. This is what Trevor developed, and this kind of showcases how he mixed and matched different tools. So he started with a lesson plan. So when he was working on that contextualized material, his program does monthly themes. So he was thinking, well, I could create a lesson plan according to our monthly theme and teach academic skills in the context of the environment and sustainability. That was their theme of the month. So he used ChatGPT to develop the lesson plan. And the lesson plan was focused on scanning a web page. So he used Canva, a popular, very popular EdTech tool that teachers already use, and some of the AI features in Canva to develop a mock web page that learners could easily scan through. And then he used Google Forms to deliver an assessment essentially to learners. So you can see how he mixed and matched different tools to really create something that is accessible to learners, relevant to learners, and aligned with academic standards, but also contextualized for adult learners. And he added a Creative Commons license to make this an open educational resource that other educators could use and reuse. And then we have Nora. Nora is our second archetype here, the collaborative creator. Nora says, overall, we use it being generative AI, for creating the material that support the teachers, and we're available for any teachers that want to learn. So Nora was very motivated by the ability and the training to collaborate and hear from others as she's learning about AI. And I think that's really critical for those of you that are delivering PD on AI to think about how do you support open-ended experimentation and collaboration and facilitate teachers as they share their different use cases. And what she ended up going on to do was developing a repository of lesson resources for other teachers. So she set up a SharePoint site and she used AI to generate a lot of PowerPoints that were aligned to their curriculum and put those in the SharePoint site. So again, thinking about Nora as a star of showing us what generative AI use can be that brings us together as a collective rather than pushing teachers into a room to use AI to generate everything they need, right? So how do we use it in a more cohesive way and share with each other so that we are all advancing together and exponentially. Our final participant was Ben, and we call him the skeptical problem solver. Ben, 6 months after the training, was like, well, yeah, I mean, I maybe use it like once a month. So again, just measured in their approach. It wasn't something that was like, oh yeah, I need to turn to that every day for everything I do as an educator. This is a quote from Ben. I went to Gemini and said, okay, I know nothing about this. It didn't solve my problem. but it did start me on the journey when I had nowhere to start. And Ben highlights kind of this really interesting potential of generative AI to support teachers in problem solving and learning in the time that they have available to them on complex issues that teachers are faced with all the time. This happened to be an issue with the LMS that they were using. But, it was like they didn't know where to start with solving the problem. So they went to a chatbot and it gave them some new terminology to use, some new ideas, and a process. Of course, they had to go on and use their human skills to enact that problem solving. But it was a place to start. And so we saw that experimenting with AI reduced Ben's anxiety overall, but validated his concerns about reliability and ethics. And I think that's another important point to emphasize in PD, is that the moral dilemmas that teachers are facing are real, and it's okay to talk about them in PD. In fact, when I started years ago doing training on AI in adult education, and everybody was talking about the environment, and I'm like, like it was frustrating to me because I'm like, I don't, where is the scope of what we're talking about? And how can I possibly talk about all of the issues around AI to an educator? But I think what helped was that AI integration framework and just opening up the conversation and letting people share how they feel and share what their concerns are, even when the concerns bring up more questions than answers. So it's a little personal learning, a little professional development for moi. And we found that Ben went on to use AI occasionally for research or to create slides and presentations. So what does this mean for PD providers? We think that this means that a strategy-first mindset is essential if you are planning on developing AI PD in adult education. What are the other crucial topics that you can cover that may be more related to teaching methods or other technologies, so that it's not just about AI, but it's more comprehensive? It's about contextualizing and differentiating and traditional EdTech tools. So how do you make that more robust and focus on the goals before tools? We also found that, it's really about augmentation. Teachers said over and over again, it's a starting point. It helps me get started. That was a lot of what we saw in their commentary. And so it was really about them getting started with AI, and there was still a lot of tweaking and working with it that they had to do, working with those outputs to get them right for their learners. And then finally, ethical stewardship. We just saw a lot of care. We know that educators care. They care about learners. They care about society. And they were really concerned about the issues of bias. And they also talked a lot about wanting to pass what they learned on to learners in the form of helping learners develop AI literacy. Shameless plug. I did a session at 8 a.m. on AI literacy. So if you guys want to see the recording, it's up there. Chapter 2. Now we're in our second chapter. So that was great. And we learned a lot. And of course, we took all of that to make some changes to the training. One of the first changes that you can see right here is that we changed the name of the training. So we originally had been calling it GenAIMS, Gen AI Makerspace, and that was too abstract, right? Like teachers were like, I don't know what I'll be getting into. And so we changed the name per Texas mandate / suggestion / recommendation to AI for AEL, which is much clearer. And then Ryan's going to talk about the numbers.
The numbers. Okay, so this was our GenAIMS numbers. So this was a cohort of 34. And as Rachel mentioned, it was a 4-webinar series with an asynchronous task for each of the first 3 webinars. And so for webinar 1, we had an attendance and that declined from 18 to 12 and down to 9 on the final webinar. And then of course the submissions, fraction of those actual participants submitted their asynchronous task submissions. But coming over to AI for AEL, you'll see that the asynchronous items are marked by the asterisk. So course one is, or all the courses are now courses in Canvas. And course one now has 200, as of today, 287 enrolled in the course, and 132 who have submitted their asynchronous activity. And then it's paired with a webinar, live webinar learning lab. And that's where we're seeing kind of a flip in the numbers in terms of participation. So lower numbers in the participation of the learning lab. But then again, course two, 153, and a course three, 97. And there's a lot of implications that we're drawing from this in terms of the high numbers in the course one and going down to course three. I don't want to jump ahead and talking about the levels, but want me to go for it? Or okay. One of the implications is course one is the beginnings, right, of generative AI. And so we're seeing a high interest because there's a high need. We're seeing that teachers are still wondering about that beginning information, kind of that entry level information about AI and its uses and its tools. Going up to course three, where it's more like, okay, I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with prompting, but I'm talking about now that classroom implementation and not yet making it up to that particular level just yet. Yes, have a question over here.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, folks who are participating in this, are they receiving PD credit? But if they have not completed from course one to course three, they do not receive the credit, or it's just more like per
How
course
fun.
level? Yeah. Like, how does that all translate?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Okay, so yes, they are receiving PD credit. The way that it's structured is they have to submit that activity and then they'll get the credit for the asynchronous course. If they also attended the learning lab, they get the time credit that they attended that live webinar learning lab. So pretty much each one of these courses is worth three PD hours each once they do that. And then of course, if they participate in all three, they get 9, but they don't have to participate in all three. So, oh, yes.
And you might actually get pushback for this, but I'm just wondering if you would want to then group them all together, like you will not receive credit until you've completed all 3 courses.
Another great
do you
question.
care that you're, losing folks up until course 3?
So that was the structure of the first of Gen Aims. So it was, an pretty yeah, and all or nothing for I think this was an 11-hour total. Do all of it, and then you get your PD. Whereas, we're seeing that high participation because they're coming in and choosing that what is applicable to them. So kind of a self-evaluation, and then being able to choose the course where they want to start and participate in 1, 2, 3, or all 3.
And I want to add too that these have been released on a delay, so there could be a time. So I guess since you're a data nerd, it's raw data. It's raw, and so it could be a time lapse thing, and then it's also what we saw in the feedback from the first phase was people saying exactly what someone said, I think, in the Mentimeter, that like we want levels. Like some of this was too basic for me, and so there could be also a level factor. Yeah, Glenda.
I was just going to add for Lee, we have that 15-hour requirement in Texas, and people come after us with pitchforks if they attend something and don't get credit. So we have to give them credit for each lesson, or they'll just like that.
Sorry. I just wanted to make sure that my favorite way that this was described was a choose your own adventure. So you get to pick and choose or do it all. And we were shocked by the results of this. And we're still continue to be shocked because we were just so super disappointed in the beginning because I was like, this is a need. I know it's a need. And then when they came up with this, it took us a second to understand what we were doing because we never tried to do this before. But once we did it, it was like, this is the best thing we've done.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think these numbers are, when did we start? Recent numbers.
Yes.
Yeah.
We started in February because this ran over a course of 8 weeks. Like she said, there was a release model. So of February 20th or something like that.
I'm still in the grade book. So some of the yes, well, I think this we've covered some of this already. But how we got there was to really flip the approach. I don't know, Ryan, do you want to talk about other things on this slide?
Yeah, I'll just say, Rachel did mention how we changed the name from GenAIMS again because that required some explanation, like what is a makerspace and the GenAIMS. So we love acronyms. Adult ed, we have our dictionary of acronyms, and we were trying to add another really cool one, but that didn't work out. So AI for AEL, descriptive and tells you exactly what it is very clear. Then we did an orientation session. So like I mentioned, the structure, this choose your own adventure structure of this course series was a new format for us. And so we did an orientation session that described and explained all of that. How many PD hours will I receive? What do I have to attend? What do I have to do? And how will I do it and access it? All of those things were explained in a 30-minute orientation session. And then as we talked about the flipped approach.
Yeah, so we took those, we had the 4 synchronous and then the 3 asynchronous assignments, and we flipped it. So we built out each of the sessions, the content from the sessions in Canvas in Texas PD portal, and then followed those up with a synchronous learning lab. And we gave participants different points of entry. So they could come in at the very start, or they could come in at the second one and continue all the way through, or they could just skip to the most advanced one, depending on how they kind of self-assess when they see the title and objectives for the different courses. We also, of course, within that process had to take all of the content from slides and Padlets and stuff and turn it into content that would be interactive and engaging in a self-paced asynchronous course. So this is an example of what used to be a slide, and we would we hid parts of the slide and we'd slowly reveal them. And then Ryan, tell us what you used and how you did this amazing work.
This is in an interactive image. So each one of these, and I built it in Genially. Each one of those, plus signs will have a pop-up box with extra information. So just adding to the interactive courses that we built in our learning management system. So they're having videos and they're having interactions with it. It's not just like a text or just a read through, but there's some interactivity to keep our learners engaged in the course.
And we wanted to really keep, we know that PD that is collaborative and that offers up opportunities for peer learning is good teacher PD. So we wanted to, of course, keep that element in. And we did that in the form of the learning labs. So what we cover in the learning labs is we do a recap of the course that they've completed asynchronously. And we provide hands-on support. So, we also have adult educators who are developing their digital literacy and EdTech integration skills. And so some people joined the learning lab wanting to just kind of walk through some of the basics of how do I get to the tool? What does it look like? And have some of that more hands-on support. So the learning lab was an opportunity to give them that so that they could finish that capstone assignment. And then the peer collaboration, obviously. So we took some of as we were grading throughout the week, we would pull the examples of what people had submitted in their capstone assignment and put those into the slides so that we could still facilitate that kind of learning that Nora loved of just seeing what other people are doing, even if not everybody showed up. And our learning lab numbers, nobody showed up, you guys. You saw that big goose egg, right? But TCAL also has, strategies for how they're going to boost the numbers in the learning labs. Do you want to talk about that, Ryan, or?
Yes. So as we're going into our newer model, I think we'll talk a little bit later, but those learning labs will be more of a required component of the individual course itself. Yeah.
So I wanted, we have a question.
Sorry, like question comment. This excites me and reminds me of something we're doing right now. So we're doing an AI boot camp also with this live learning lab component. Struggled with the same issues you're talking about, right? No one's showing up. Our approach or response to that was we realized before it was very much office hours like, and now we've turned it into extensions of really what they've explored in the content. And then we recorded it, and those who didn't show up could access the recordings. And we're talking about they did a couple of weeks of this, and after watching like 2 of the recordings, they realized we should show up because like the instructor facilitator is doing more than just like the basics of what they explored in the content. So
Oh yeah,
I don't
that's
know
a
if that's
great
good
idea.
suggestion, but yeah, just something that's how we address that issue, and it's been working very well.
No, that's a great suggestion.
Great idea. Yeah, even like a little teaser, like we're gonna show. Woo, don't you want to come? Yeah.
Next time on AI for AEL.
Gareth is gonna produce it for us. I did want to share just kind of more broadly. So that, is all within the context of that training and what we did to support that training. We also gathered some data and analyzed it through the technology acceptance model to just kind of better understand what are the different constructs that are facilitating AI use in adult education. And so I wanted to point out some of the things that the teachers talked about that were helpful to them. In this leftmost box, you see the external variables that supported use. First one being institutional support. And so having time to experiment was essential. Having paid licenses, and I have to give credit to the TCAL team for really supporting teachers and in their acquisition and approval and procurement process to have access to different tools. But having paid licenses when you talk about generative AI tools is a huge game changer for a lot of the concerns that we have regarding data privacy, but then also just for the transformative use. Teachers are so limited when they only have access to a free account. So I think that's really important. And then obviously training, they just appreciated having some training on it. So that was good. And then some of the ethical concerns that came up were privacy, bias. So especially working with diverse learners, working with adult learners who have literacy needs. That's not what you see in a massive AI training data set a lot. So that was one of the adult educators' concerns. And then integrity, like there was some talk around copyright. If I am using my publisher textbook, well, how do I augment that with AI without actually doing something that maybe is not ethically aligned? And finally, peer collaboration. That shared experimentation was really important. And then, in terms of ease of use and usefulness, we definitely saw a lot of reports of it being fast. They talked about the speed a lot. We all know it's very fast, but they talked a lot about how much work it takes. They talked about working with the outputs. That was actually one of our themes from our qualitative data analysis, working with outputs. They had to really wrangle those things and prepare them for learners. So it wasn't like, aha, I'm done. It's magic. And then the usefulness, they also saw that it was very useful. Useful as a cognitive partner for generating ideas, useful as a starting point for lesson planning and curriculum development, useful for differentiation and efficiency. And those intentions that they talked about were to really integrate it into their curriculum, support adult learners in building the same skills that they had developed. Mindful adoption was one of the intentions. And differentiation was an intention to use it more to support diverse learners who are coming at different levels and so on. So just wanted to share that. You can also read the report. We have an article coming out in New Directions for Adult Education. You can read that too. And yeah, that's it. We would love to hear any questions or comments that you guys have. I think we have plenty of time for that. Happy to show things too.
You talked about using or providing the teachers with paid AI accounts. Like, how did the process to figure out which account to give to them, or what tool did the teachers select them, or did you guys select them? How many of them did you provide? Was it just for everybody participating in the course?
I'll say that the course was like choose your own tool. So we didn't require them to use any specific tools, but then I would love to hear from Tika on like how you guys go through that process.
Yeah, and at our level, I mean, we weren't necessarily providing any paid access, but helping at the program level, working with what your program has access to. So, for example, some programs don't have access to Google products. So, trying to tell them, okay, here's some other optional tools that you may be able to access at your program level. But as a state providing the PD, we didn't purchase any paid accounts for them.
Thank you. And another question, the interactive flyer that you guys created, is that something that is available for the public? Like if we wanted to explore it and see, could we, or is it just for Texas?
What's
Oh, great.
Okay.
It's in the chat.
should-
Is what is being said. The link to the interactive images in the chat. Yes.
I want to mention too that we'll have the course on our e-learning site at World Ed. And we also, since you're an Ideal Consortium member, we will be supporting our Ideal Consortium members to take the course and adapt it and add it to your own LMS. So yeah.
One more.
This one. What other thoughts or questions do you have or ideas? What are you going to do now? What's next?
I can share what we're going to do.
What are you going to do now, Ryan?
Well, the next phase of this is we're actually doing the trainer model. So right now we've been working with World Ed to do the feedback and mostly the facilitation of those asynchronous courses. And so now we are training trainers to replace the World Ed component of that. So that way we can continue to facilitate these courses going forward. As you see from the numbers, we have thousands in the state registered in our portal. So as you see from the numbers, there's that need, and I can't grade them all. So, and she said there's still some sitting waiting for her. So we're training trainers so that way we can roll the model out, and then as programs request it, they can do more closed cohort models with the required training, the learning lab built into that as well. So we're going to continue that rollout throughout the state with more trainers.
When you say contextualize, can you tell me a little more about what you mean by that?
Sure. So contextualizing in the sense that you take an academic skill like a reading or math skill and you teach it in the context that is relevant to an adult learner. So if you have an adult learner who is in a CNA IET, how do we teach math that is in a healthcare context to help them develop those skills and stay engaged and persist in learning? Or if you have, for example, maybe an ESOL class and you have a certain grammar concept and teaching it in the context of going to the doctor, which is a very real life context. You guys are talking a lot, but you're not talking to me. Share with the group. Surely you don't want me to just keep talking.
Exploring it right now, the URL there, and I'm looking for the one pager that has the interactive. Like I don't know how to explain it because I forgot the name. Hold on, I wrote it down. Sorry.
Oh no,
No,
Marianne.
it's not the app. It's the actual page. Yes.
Oh, the when do I AI
Yes, the
graphic.
When do I AI graphic? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's not in the report.
Oh, okay.
Um, the interactive version will be something we can share with you directly. We do have, let me find a link because
I'll share the link specifically to that email page.
Thank you so much.
we do have a short link to it. I just can't remember what it is. We'll add it to the slides and then add those to Hoova, and then somehow we'll all find each other. Or Marianne, I have your email, so I'll send it to you. I'll take everybody's email. Old fashioned. Any questions from our online folks, Ashley? Questions, comments?
It's hyperlink. If you go back to that, or it's in the chat as well. Yeah.
Oh, it's on here?
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. Okay, the whole graphic is hyperlinked. So here, I can actually just pop up a QR code if you guys want to
Oh,
get that on your phones.
Digital resilience.
Oh yeah. I didn't even need AI for that process.
There wasn't a question, but there was a comment. I always feel like you can't hear me, but I'm very loud. Stacy just said, such incredible work to absolutely meet such a huge need in the field. And other than that, we did share it in the chat and up there. So check it out.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thanks, Stacy. Okay. Thank you guys so much for your time. Reach out. Would love to chat with you. Have a great day. Okay, wait. Are you guys? I feel like I should get a tip for ending 14 minutes early. Me and Ryan. So I'll pull up my Venmo. No, I'm just kidding. Have a great day.
My plug. As you walk out, I just want to share with you one more no, DLTI resource, free digital literacy technology integration symposium, May 15th and 16th. It is virtual. And I think she's going to pull it up really quickly. It's called DLTI, and oh, she's quick. We'll pull it up so you can
Don't read my email.
all the secret chat. It's at there it is. So if you go to our website, oh, there, don't need it. QR code again. So please feel free to join us or come to Texas. We'll be in Irving, Texas, but also you can join online. Irving, right outside of Dallas.
I live in North Carolina. I'll be in Texas though.
Another good reason to come.